Namaskar friends, my name is Madhusudan Rao. The topic for today's discussion is the mission Samudrayaan being undertaken by Bharat. After a successful soft landing of Chandrayaan 3 on the lunar surface and the launch of Aditya L1 mission to study the sun, India is preparing for its first manned deep ocean mission Samudrayaan. Let us understand what is Samudrayaan. Under Samudrayaan Mission, the first manned submersible vehicle called MATSYA 6000 will be sent to 6000 meters, that is 6 kilometers deep into the underwater to study the deep ocean resources such as precious metals like nickel, which are widely used in stainless steel, batteries, non-ferrous alloys, alloy steel casting and chemical industries. Cobalt, again widely used in batteries and alloys and tool material industries. Manganese, again this also will be widely used in stainless steel, non-ferrous alloys, batteries and chemical industries. Also search for minerals and also to understand deep sea life. The research can also be used for defense purpose. The ocean craft MATSYA 6000 being developed by National Institute of Ocean Technology, NIOT Chennai, will take a dip in the Bay of Bengal early next year for trials. Our scientists are looking into the design cautiously after the implosion of the Titan submersible, which took tourists into the Titanic wreckage site in the North Atlantic Ocean in the month of June 2023. Once commissioned, 3 humans will be able to go into ocean depth to study the deep sea resources and biodiversity assessment, as discussed earlier. The government vision of New India by 2030, enunciated in February 2019, highlighted the blue economy as one of the 10 core dimensions of growth. India has a unique maritime position. Its 7,517 kilometers long coastal line is home to 9 coastal states and 1,382 islands. The country has 12 major ports and 187 non-major ports, handling about 1,400 million tons of cargo every year, as 95% of India's trade by volume transits by sea. India's exclusive economic zone of over 2 million square kilometers is rich in living and non-living resources and holds significant recoverable resources of crude oil and recoverable natural gas. The coastal economy also sustains over 4 million fishermen and other coastal communities. With this vast maritime interest, the blue economy in India has a vital relationship with the nation's economic growth. The Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India, in pursuance of the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi's thrust on the blue economy, has taken up the initiative to evaluate a policy approach to the blue economy. The Council has submitted its draft policy framework on the blue economy of India in September 2020. Samudrayaan project, one among those several initiatives of India. The big challenge in the mission Samudrayaan is to handle the underwater pressure. Let us understand some of the basic things about the underwater pressure. Most of us know that the deeper you go underwater, the greater the pressure. That is why divers need to be careful as they come back from deep waters. The nitrogen that has built up in their bodies needs to dissipate. If this does not happen, it expands too quickly. This gives rise to decompression sickness and technically known as the bends. Rapid decompression can even be deadly. So understanding pressure to depth and the depth to pressure is important. Atmospheric pressure refers to the pressure of atmosphere around us, of which the air is a part. It is the weight of the air pressing down on the earth and everything on it due to its gravity. Even though the air seems like nothing to us, we know it's made of atoms and have the mass. The gravity of the earth is constantly pulling the air down, and that is what creates pressure around us. On the other planets, with a greater gravity, the pressure on the surface could be enough to kill the human beings in seconds. At sea level, the atmospheric pressure pushes down on you at 14.7 lbs per square inch, and the pressure inside your body is pushing back on the air pressure with the same force. This is the baseline for air pressure, and you will not feel it at all. This is basically a perfect equilibrium. If you go above the sea level at high altitudes, the pressure changes and you can feel it. When a scuba diver goes underwater, the change in pressure becomes noticeable. Pressure and depth are intertwined. First, you are dealing with not only the water pressure but also the air pressure. Second, the pressure increases very quickly compared to air pressure on land. At sea level, we experience one atmospheric pressure. Underwater, the pressure increases 1 atmospheric pressure at every 33 feet you go deep. 1 atmospheric pressure is what we experience at sea level, that is on the land. In other words, 1 atmospheric pressure is equal to 14.7 psi. So how do fish survive underwater? So let us understand the basics. Many marine animals can handle depths far greater than human beings. In general, a human who wants to deep dive can go down to around 60 feet with no gear. Scuba divers can go deep around 130 feet. The pressure of dive is not necessarily a risk for you physiologically speaking. Your body is mostly fluid, so that the pressure can be managed for that. But the gases in your body becomes a problem. Most specifically the nitrogen. The pressure on the nitrogen forces your body to store in your cells. Your body has so much room when it comes to storing nitrogen. It needs to be released at some point, and it has to be done safely. Otherwise, decompression sickness is the result and can even be deadly. For sea life, this is not an issue. These creatures were made to stay underwater. Modern submarines are believed to have crush depths around 3000 feet or so. The crush depth is the depth at which the hull of the vessel will collapse. Keeping this in mind, it's worth noting that a fish called Mariana's snailfish was discovered living at 26,600 feet down underwater. They experience pressure 2,500 times what we do. The pressure they endure is around 15,000 psi. In fact, their bodies would fall apart if we brought them to the surface. They need the pressure to survive as we need low pressure to survive. Marine life is better adapted to surviving pressure because of how their physiology works. They don't breathe air like us to have decompressed gases in their systems. When you look at a fish bones, you can see that they are far different than ours. Fish bones are thin and flexible and are not at same risk of breaking. They do breathe air, but their bodies are soft and their lungs actually collapse at the depth to prevent gas exchange. Their system allows them to handle pressure far greater than humans. Let us understand with one example. When a cyclonic storm comes, the grass will bend accordingly and survive. But when a big tree cannot bend and falls to ground. Now we know how the pressure increases underwater. You might be curious to know how deep the ocean is. There is no single answer for that. Just like the surface of the earth is covered with hills and valleys, so is the bottom of the ocean. The Mariana snailfish we mentioned earlier lives at the deepest and darkest depth of the oceans. The Mariana Trench is the deepest part of the ocean that the mankind has ever discovered. This is located in the Pacific Ocean and the deepest point reaches over 36,000 feet. That is around 10,973 meters approximately and around 11 kilometers, that is over 6 miles deep. The water pressure at this depth is 15,750 psi. However, as we said, that is the single deepest point. The rest of the oceans, which are vast, can vary. The pressure tends to range from 3000 psi to 9000 psi depending on where you go. Obviously, these are all far greater than any pressure a human and even a most submarines can handle. Specially made robots and submersibles have been built that can handle even the highest pressures the ocean has to offer. It takes around 4 hours just to get to the bottom from the surface. Salt water has a different density than fresh water, and if you are diving in salt water, you will experience a greater pressure as a result. Water temperature also has an effect on the density. Warm water is less dense than cold water and therefore the pressure varies accordingly. When a submarine hull collapses, it moves inward at about 1500 miles per hour. That is around 2414 kilometers per hour as per Dave Carley, a former US nuclear submarine expert. The time required for complete collapse is about 1 millisecond or 1/1000th of the second. A human brain responds to a stimulus at about 25 milliseconds. Mr. Carley says, human rational response from sensing to an act is believed to be at best 150 milliseconds. The air inside a submarine has a fairly high concentration of hydrocarbon vapors. When the hull collapses, the air auto-ignites and an explosion follows the initial rapid implosion, Mr. Carley says. Human bodies are turned to ash and dust instantly and cannot even sense. On 18th June 2023, Titan, a submersible vehicle operated by American Tourism and Expeditions Company, Ocean Gate, imploded during an expedition to review the wreck of Titanic in the North Atlantic Ocean, killing 5 explorers on board. After understanding the underwater pressure and the risks involved, let us come to our topic, Samudrayaan. The mission has designed to last for 12 hours under regular operation and 96 hours during a crisis, that is with life